They were a better team than us, honestly. Yeah, they were
Oh, she
hot.
did on purpose.
And it was a great, tons of respect for them. They were the better team that day.
Now, did anyone in the league do anything at the nationals?
Nope. DePaul advanced out to the regionals, and then they got beat by a team that I think ended up in the top four.
Okay.
So,
I'm ready.
but thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Hope you- I hope you
We
enjoyed
enjoyed
it.
it, yeah, we did.
Okay. We will call the Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting to order. It is June 20th at 7 o'clock. Can you please call roll?
Mr. Bricker? Mr. Brookover? Ms. Cunningham?
Here.
Mr. Dalton?
Here.
Ms. McWinney? Mr. Rue?
Here.
Mr. Rush?
Here.
Ms. Thompson?
Here.
Councilman Rohr?
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Hibinger?
Here.
Chairwoman Lash?
Here. Can I have a motion to excuse, I think I got them all, Mr. Bricker, Mr. Brookhoven, and Ms. McQuinney? Did I miss somebody?
We also have our new student. Caitlin Ashley, so.
And then Miss Ashley? She's not here. Can I have a motion to excuse those members?
Second.
To call roll again, please.
Ms. Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Councilman Rohr?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Hibinger? Chairwoman Lash?
Yes. We have a couple of new people on the board, so we just want to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. Corey?
Hello, I'm Corey Thompson. My maiden name is Dunphy. I've been a longtime Delaware resident, and I'm excited to be a part of this wonderful group. I'm also a coordinator of the 4th of July Parade.
Great.
So if you have any questions, later.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the April 18th meeting? And just as a reminder, if you were not here but you read them, you can vote. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve. I second.
Thank you. Call, please.
Ms. Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Rush?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Councilman Rohr?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Hibinger? Yes. Chairwoman Lash?
Yes. It looks like we are then moving on to public comments. Do we have any public comments? Okay, then we will move on to the update at the Y.
Okay. So I'm assuming everyone has seen the report. You have any questions that you have for the report?
Any questions?
No.
No?
No.
Doesn't
As
look like
usual,
it.
it's so thorough and
It was in the packet.
Okay. Well, like we said, anytime you have anything, please let us know. And if there's anything you request from us, please let us know. We'll make sure that we get it included into the information. Good.
No other updates then? Okay. Did you have something, Ted?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Jeremy. That was easy. We are actually going to adjust the agenda and move up because we have a group waiting regarding the East Side Park renaming. So we'll go ahead and start with that, please.
Okay, so some background. I think Pat Yankee came to us, it's probably been over a year now, and requested a renaming of the East Side Park in recognition of Mr. Dick Bennett. And we didn't have a renaming policy in place at the time. So we worked through that, and we have a renaming policy that has been finalized through City Council, and have that in place now. That gives us some guidelines so that we can go forward with the renaming policy. And part of that renaming policy is one of the things that it's mainly geared towards new parks, where we have a new park and we want to find a name for that, and we solicit the public input so that we can kind of zero in on that. In this situation, it's more of a renaming. And then part of the renaming that the revised policy states is the intent of the renaming is for permanent recognition. The renaming of parks and facilities is strongly discouraged. It is recommended that efforts to change the name to be subject to the most crucial examination. Parks named for subjects other than individuals may be names change in name only if current. So we want to get away from that renaming. But in this situation, they've brought I think what originally is Eastside Park because it's on the east side. So there's not a lot of history or recognition or geological significance that comes with the name of Eastside Park. So when this proposal was sent to us, they brought us to the attention of Mr. Dick Bennett, who had a big part in forming this park over there. So the application was in your packet. And part of that they are required to submit is a written recommendation, which they did, petitions, which they have something from the family, also a letter from the family that they're in approval of this, which they have in there. Why the candidate merits such a recognition, and then part of it is Parks and Recreation Facilities may be named for a person subject to the following conditions: that they've been deceased for a minimum of 1 year. Significant positive contribution to the parks and recreation culture in the community without which the park facility may not exist. And in this situation, I think it definitely follows through with all the criteria that we've outlined in the park renaming policy. One side note, I think we had previously named the baseball field John Ott Field, which we will continue. I think we had a plaque on the fence that we have to replace actually when we did some renovations out there. I think that plaque got lost, but we will put that back up. I've talked to John Ott, talked to Pat Yankee about this. It would still be Ott Field or John Ott Field, but then the park renaming could go forward, for the overall park itself. So I think everyone would be satisfied in that situation. And again, I guess our recommendation is for the renaming of this park and maybe just calling it Bennett Park. There might be a plaque that goes inside that says the full name and gives like a rundown of Mr. Bennett and the things he's done for the community. So, that's our recommendation at this point. If there's any questions, I think we have several people in the audience that are here for this specifically, so they may want to speak, but if you have any other questions also.
I think the board's changed a little bit since the last time I was here. There's new faces. So Sheriff Martin's going to speak just a little bit. I'm not going to reiterate what I already put in writing, what I said last year. Jim Rose, he was a captain at the Delaware City Police Department. Also knew Dick Bennett. He's the chief, deputy chief up at Perrysville. And then Aaron Bennett, Dick Bennett's son's in the audience, and I think his other son's on his way. They've come quite a distance. So I'm not going to say any more. Sheriff, you had a few things I think you wanted to say on this.
Can I have you state your name and address
I'm
just for the
sorry.
record? No, I apologize. It's just
Yeah, Pat Yankee. I'm the chief deputy at Delaware County Sheriff's Office. I worked at the city of Delaware 33 years. My address is on Fulton Creek Road, 8391 Fulton Creek Road in Radnor, Delaware County. Do you need anything else? And that's KIE on the last name.
Sheriff Russ Martin, 149 North Sandusky Street. I want to commend the board for the work you've done in putting together the criteria, and it sounds like the application process. So appreciate your detail and attention to that. Also want to thank you for your pending recommendation for the project. I just want to give you, I know you've probably read Chief Deputy Pat Yankee's little bit of history on that. And I just, as I was driving in, I was reminded that, just 2 days ago, we spent a considerable amount of time recognizing the work of good fathers in our lives. And although Patrolman Richard Bennett has been gone, I think in a moment you'll hear from his legacy as a father, and not just as a biological father, but also as a, on some levels, kind of a paternal father to a lot of us in the law enforcement community. A quick story, and then I'll step away. But I recently had lunch with a African-American gentleman who had moved here from Philadelphia, and we were talking about part of the ongoing challenge of the law enforcement community and the engagement with neighborhoods, in particular minority neighborhoods. And this gentleman from Philadelphia said that when he grew up 35 years ago in his neighborhood in Philadelphia, police officers lived there. So they weren't cops, they were neighbors, and they were fathers. And, that has changed in this country. Fortunately, as law enforcement wages went up, police officers, like a lot of people, moved from their neighborhood into the suburbs. Well, Delaware City is certainly not an urban area. But Dick Bennett grew up and lived on the east side of town. And for a lot of us that have worked in this community for a long time, there was always a little bit of a stigma coming from the east side. And unfortunately, it was unwarranted or unmerited. But Dick Bennett, when he probably could have moved to a newer house in another part of Delaware, stayed put and remained an active member of the community on the east side. And as Chief Yankee and I recently revisited the park, we were reminded that Dick would walk across the street. The article in the Gazette showed his home in the background, and spent time working on that field long before it was a mature park that it is now. And when we know sometimes in residential areas when people complain about their neighbors' kids making too much noise, Dick's patio overlooked right across the street that park, and he enjoyed the fruits of his labor as he invested in his community. So I don't think there'd be anything more appropriate in today's time than to commend Richard Bennett, Patrolman Richard Bennett, his service to his community, his service to this country, the legacy he's left as a father, and what he taught us about community policing before we called it community policing. So on behalf of the law enforcement community, I just want to thank you for your work on this project and commend you. I know you have many tough decisions to make sitting on the Parks Board, but I hope you'll continue to follow through with this and allow the East Side to be reminded of the contributions that Patrolman Richard Bennett made to this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Aaron Bennett, E-R-I-N. And the address is 4321 Westway Street, Toledo, Ohio, 43612. Good evening.
Good evening.
Not too long after my dad passed away, Chief Deputy Yankee contacted me and with the idea of renaming the park. Asked me to get a hold of my brothers and see what they thought, and we were all in agreement with it, obviously. Honored. It's not an honor that, excuse me. Not something that Dad would have asked for himself. It means a lot that people he hasn't worked directly with for years think this much of him to put the effort forth to have the park renamed in his honor. He made that kind of impression. His life is one of service. Joined the Air Force when he was 17. Got out of the Air Force, worked factory jobs for a year or two, and then joined the Delaware Police Department and served as an officer for 18 years. Medically retired from that and served as a dispatcher for the police department for another year or two until he was appointed director of the Delaware County Service Office, where he served for another 20 years and would have kept going for a while, except my mother had Alzheimer's and he needed to retire to take care of her. And in doing that, he ignored his own health and passed away a lot longer, not sooner than he should have. In addition to service to his country and the city, he longtime scouts, Boy Scouts. He was a scoutmaster for Troop 108 at Grace Church, New Beginnings Church at the Point. Even after he's no longer scoutmaster, he was the representative for the church to the troop. Carrying on that tradition, I'm active with the Scouts with my son. I'll be going to summer camp here pretty soon. Try getting someone from Troop 108 here tonight, but they're at a summer camp this week. Just a life of service. Extremely proud of the park. I remember we went to the 1982 World's Fair and my mom had us all wear red shorts and the green East Side Park Committee shirt. We looked like Christmas trees. And I remember when the park was nothing more than a field, and Dad and the commission got with the state, got it turned over. They brought in mounds of dirt, and John Ott, that was mentioned earlier, I believe he was a local farmer. I believe he dedicated his time and equipment to come over and level everything off. And the baseball field is named in his honor. I'd like to see the sign back up. That would be great. This is something he never would have thought to ask for himself, and we're just, as a family, honored that the people he's worked with have put so much effort into doing this. But hopefully my older brother will be here soon. He was on his way, and he might have something to say too when he gets here if we're still talking. Any questions about that or anything?
No, he sounds like a very wonderful man. Thank you for being here tonight to talk to us about him. He definitely sounds like he made an impression in the community and was definitely a model citizen and someone that everybody looked up to. So we appreciate you coming in and talking to us about him. I don't know if anyone on the board has questions. Our next step would actually be if we can get a recommendation tonight to approve it in terms of the Parks Board, and then it would go on to City Council. So if anybody has any objection to that or any questions, then I think we can just vote for, we need to make I need a motion to make a recommendation that the East Side Park will be renamed to Bennett Park so that it can go to council.
Did anybody else want to speak?
I didn't think they did. I thought they were done speaking. Yeah. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve it and vote to send it to council for approval.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay. Can I have roll call, please?
Ms. Cunningham,
Yes.
Mr. Dalton,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Rush,
Yes.
Ms. Thompson,
Yes.
Councilman Rohr,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Hivinger,
Yes.
Chairwoman Lash.
Yes. So we'll keep the family updated on next steps, and it will need to go to City Council for their approval. I don't know when that will get on the agenda, but we'll certainly keep you updated on that.
Okay. Yeah, I was told the next meeting possibly could be July 10th. I'll be in St. Louis with my son's scout camp that week,
That's
but
okay, yeah.
if I'm not there or either of my brothers able to attend, it's,
Sure.
what I just said tonight, what everybody else has said, carries
Yeah.
through.
Great. Well, thank you so much
All right, thank you.
for coming in tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, so then we're going to move on to the update of the park activities.
Okay, so I just wanted to bring up a few updates that we have gone through in the last month. Well, actually 2 months, because we didn't meet last month. But at the end of May, Mr. Dalton was there too. We had a Glen Ross Park update where we had a public meeting with the citizens of the Glen Ross community and in the Cheshire Road, Glen Parkway area. And looking at Glen Ross Park, we have some improvements that would be part of phase 2 out here. And we met with them last fall and then got their comments. We also got approved for a NatureWorks grant last year to put towards these improvements out here. So we wanted to finalize the plan. We met with them again just recently, and we just had a few minor tweaks to the plan. Also, a few things that changed since last time was this area has been added to the park as part of the development to the north here. So we wanted to include that into the overall park plan so that it would look like one park, and made some modifications to the pathway. And then the other thing is to improve some of the field turf out there so that the neighborhood kids can have some drop-in play. Not necessarily, they're kind of having a problem now where people drive to the field and are having practices there. So we want to kind of discourage that a little bit more. And if we can develop a South Community Park in the future, I think that'll provide that need for this area of the city. But also adding the nature trail, or not nature trail, but just a path that will go along the east side that will complete a loop that will connect with the Glen Parkway path that people can loop the park with and kind of do some walking miles. The other thing is some additional landscaping, which would buffer the residents to the east, including some mounding, and then some additional playground equipment. That would be, hopefully we can fit that all into part of phase 2. So our next step is to start getting some cost estimates and see where we can, how much of these improvements we can do. We're hoping we can get a lot of these improvements done. One of the things that's coming up is we're going to be removing a lot of topsoil from the new fire station in this area. We want to use that out here to refurbish some of the fields. The soil we have out there now is terrible. It's not really conducive to growing grass, so we need to supplement that with some good topsoil. And if we can use some of the fire station topsoil and we can get some topsoil from the area. I know we have some of the topsoil from the cemetery that we would like to bring over here and use that in some of these areas. So we had a good meeting with the neighborhood and got some additional comments, but based on our meeting, we're on the right track. And phase 3 will include some other things like a full basketball court, a volleyball court. Well, no, that was pretty much it. There were some other things like a tennis court out there that were future, but in this size of park, it may not fit in there. So we'll revisit that once we get to phase 3. But these are the items in phase 2, and I just kind of wanted to give you an update and to answer any questions you may have. Okay.
Question?
The next item, we are, you guys are probably aware, we have the Little Brown Jug Classic, the Junior Golf Classic. We've revised it this year. It's typically during the fair week. We were not getting a lot of participation, especially from the youth athletes in our area, because the sports season started at the end of July at this point. And I think golf might even start even sooner than that because they want to finish up earlier. So we were not getting that local participation, and we wanted to kind of change that. So we're looking at July 8th for this year's tournament. Right now, as of today, we have 20 participants signed up, which is a pretty good number, because we think towards the end of it, we will get a lot more participants. Typically, when they've ran it in the past, once they reach the 20 mark, the tournament would go on. So the tournament is on at this point. So we have 20 participants. Our goal is to get up near 70 if we can. We'd like to get that because as some of the members were on our golf course sustainability plan, and one of the things that we came out of that with is we want to promote more youth play at the golf course, and we've already seen that this year. We've offered some lower rates for some of our youth out there, and we've seen a higher participation with youths coming out to the golf course. So this tournament will be a big step towards promoting more youth out there, and we also need to mention the Kiwanis Club. They kind of took over running this tournament this year. It fits in with all of their mission and goals. So it's a good partnership for us, and I hope it will be successful. And if you know any youth that are interested in this, please pass this information along. We have entry forms on our website, the Kiwanis site, and they have to be in by the end of the month. So we know how many are participating. Any questions on that?
Can you tell me why, at least for the younger kids, they are not allowed to be somewhat followed by their family, at least a parent? I get it for the older kids, but I know like my 9-year-old, he was all for it until I told him his dad couldn't go with him.
That's a good question. I'm not positive on that.
Okay.
I'll find that out though.
And I have some other kids that would like to sign up, but the moms were like, if we can't be but a hole behind, so I don't know.
Okay. I'm not sure why they've always had it that way.
Do they end up assigning somebody to them?
They do. They have an
Okay.
official score that goes with that person.
Because I have some 7-year-olds that would probably follow a fly.
No, each person that goes out has an official score that marks down their score. But let me look into that and see if there's any opportunities we can do there.
I understand it. I just was curious.
Well, for some of the younger age groups, there might be a possibility that we can do something there.
Okay.
The only other items I wanted to bring up was the Blue Limestone Bird Study. If you remember, a professor from OWU, can't remember his name now, lost me, but he had done a bird study out on Wetland Park. He wanted to continue that at Blue Limestone with, I can't remember the name of the bird he's studying down there also, but it fit in with that. And so he's going to continue that, take some students down there and do some studying of that bird. We have an archaeology study going on down there also with part of the OWU camp, their youth camp. That is this Thursday and Friday, and also next Thursday and Friday. They've done this before in the past. I think the last time they did it was about 5 years ago, but they do an archaeology study. It's kind of off away from the main part of Blue Limestone, and just kind of they sift through some dirt and see if they find anything. And then once they're done, they'll restore it to its original state. Just let you know that's going on. Also, the bike plan has been approved, and we are getting the final copy done as we speak.
That's good.
Yes.
To come back to the archaeology study,
Yes.
is this more or less training, or is this something where they actually think they may find something, or?
It's more training than anything. They have a OWU camp where they do several programs, and one of them is archaeology to see. I think it's more to see if kids have an interest in archaeology and what goes into archaeology. But yeah, they don't have any specific sites that they want to get to that they think they're going to find things. It's just an available site that's close to campus.
Okay.
Ted, I just have a quick question. I haven't been out to the splash pad since it's open and stuff. Did the United Way that we had talked about and approved, did they get their stuff put out there?
Yes, they did. Yep. And they've had the dedication out there, and yeah, it seems to be. We even got some good comments on Instagram about it.
Okay. Okay.
One other item that's kind of just recently came up, since Jeremy's still here, I wanted to discuss and update the board with is the Mingo Pool. The weather has been really hot as of last week, so I wouldn't want to say it's a problem. It's more of a, I guess, a good problem that we have more people that want to get in the pool than we are able to safely manage and guard. So last week on Friday, I think it was Friday when it started, Jeremy, the lifeguards and the pool staff realized that we were getting to a maximum number in the pool. So in order to, and number one concern out there is always safety. So as we approach this capacity number, the lifeguard, the pool staff decided that we needed to cut off admissions until we could get down to a level that safety could, be maintained out there. And part of that, the policy that they've had in place is that once they get to that point, then day passes. Well, first I want to back up. Once they get to that point, any daycare camps or anything will be taken out of the pool and taken to other activities in the gym or outside, so that they can kind of allow more members in and day passes in. And once the next step is to get to the day passes, they're kind of we'll keep them from coming in and allow members only, Mingo members, and then the YMCA members are also Mingo members also. So just by being a YMCA member, so we kind of cut it off there and allow those people in, but the day passes are on hold now. So that it's kind of something we're dealing with. It's kind of a new issue. So we wanted to kind of get some input from this board, how we move forward with that. One of the things we've talked about is anyone, once we reach that capacity, maybe we offer them the same price to go over to the YMCA pool and use that pool. They have an outdoor deck and everything, but that we won't turn anyone away. We can at least use that pool for the members and the day passes until we can get down to a level that, as people leave, that we find enough people leave, that we can let more people in the pool. So it's something we're dealing with now, and we kind of want to get some input from this board and your thoughts on this. Jeremy, did I leave anything out? I probably left a few things out, but that's kind of one of the things we're thinking of, is if we can utilize the YMCA pool to take that overload until we can get to, the numbers down to where we can create a safe environment in the pool. One of the other things we talked about was, do we just cut it off completely, not even allow members in, or day passes in until that level can get down to there? Because one of the things I'm talking with Jeremy and Matt today was that when let's just say there's 300 people in the pool, not 300 people in the Mingo complex, there's not 300 people in the pool at one time. There may be 150 people in the pool, but when the numbers get in the pool where, they can't see the bottom, that's when there's an issue and need to, stop letting people in. But I don't think you can ever say that if there's 300 people in the pool, there's 50% or 300 people on the campus, that there's 50% of them in the pool at one time. That's just a number that's something the lifeguard's got to make the call out there.
And it's 1 to 25, so one lifeguard, 25 bodies,
How many lifeguards are out there?
13.
So I just needed some quick clarification. When you guys are doing this, it's as it reaches capacity. You're not starting out this way then. It's not, so you're letting everybody in until it gets to that capacity, and then you're cutting off day camp, then you're cutting off the daily passes and only letting members in. Couldn't we still be reaching over capacity by just letting members in then?
But we're keeping count in too.
Okay.
So it's like, once you take the camps out, like we'll call Roger and say, do not bring camp over here.
Yeah.
Just put them in gym or do something out of the park. Same thing with SAC. We will not charge you this day. Do not come over today. We're at capacity. So we start taking out those groups and it starts lightening the load. But we've had so many day passes for the last couple of days that it was 90 degrees.
Yeah.
That now you have an overload. So
And
it's
are
not.
they just walk-ups?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they can be cut off before they pay or anything like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have or have not tried to send people to the Y pool.
Have not. That was just one of the things we thought about.
Better than nothing.
I think that's a great option.
I do too.
Give
I
them
mean,
that
it's
option.
If the Y's
suboptimal, but
susceptible, if they're
better
willing
than
to do
nothing.
that.
Mhm.
Is there going to be additional cost in terms of for the Y, for making sure that there's enough guards on site for that option at the
Well, we have guards
Y?
at both.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would the day passes be accepted there too, if they're day pass people?
If
For
they're
the
day
Y
passes,
pool?
Yes.
In our brief discussion today, Matt and Jeremy thought that they would, the same price that we charge at Mingo could be offered to them at the YMCA to use the pool out there. So, but it's just a thought. We haven't really dove into it yet, but that would be one.
I'm sure it would face hesitation, but I think it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's
I
something.
don't see an agenda item for a new pool, so.
No.
Yeah, one of
Short
my
of
parents
that.
brought that to me tonight. One of my parents said, there was this going on, how about a new pool? Can you say something?
Yes. Well, it's been brought up. I mean, it's definitely something that is, on a plan. I don't think we had it in the 5-year plan, but maybe the 10-year plan or something like that. It's a thought out there, but events like this are going to make us think about it even more.
Is there any kind of tracking of how the population has increased at Mingo over the last, to warrant something being done sooner than later? Is there any kind of tracking of past sales or attendance or?
Not since the Y's been doing it, no.
Well, you guys track attendance, though. I mean, how many people
Right,
come to
we
the
know
pool?
how many bathers we've had just for
Yeah.
health department records.
Right.
But as far as, we don't necessarily keep it.
Do you know when people are coming and there's such overflow, if they're coming from Delaware or are they from surrounding areas? You have no idea when you do the day pass, they don't have to sign anything?
Like I said, it's mainly, the only days you have the problems today is really, really hot.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty warm today. We did not have that issue today.
And do you see a major attendance drop during the week when it turns into family swim where you have to be under 18, has to be with a parent?
It's a small drop, but it's not huge. It's not anything that
It's not causing it.
We don't have any residency requirements for the pool.
have residencies. No.
Now, with memberships, you do get a discounted rate for memberships.
But day passes.
Some of them, though, like, doesn't the orange pool, don't you have to be a resident?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Not to
Um,
get
It's limited to- oh.
yeah, the same thing, they discount memberships if you're a resident of Orange Township.
And another question was whether, as we reach that capacity point, is it something that we should just eliminate or stop all new entries coming into the pool, whether you're a member or not, or just a day pass?
I'd have a hard time pushing back on members, saying you bought a pass and now you can't get
Is
in.
there not an
I
amount
mean-
of people like the fire code or something like that? Like you're not allowed to let beyond a certain amount in?
You can have, I forget what the number is on the deck. I don't think we'll reach that capacity because of the green space. Where we're having problems is the people in the water. Because once you can't see the bottom, that's exactly when we can't man it anymore. It has to be, we have to get some people out. Because basically at that point, nobody's swimming.
Mhm.
They're basically standing in the water. And that's where our fear is, that's when you lose kids on the bottom, that's when people are standing and maybe not realize somebody beside them may be under.
Mhm.
So ours is all for, being able to see clearly. And like I said, there's 13 guards down there, there's 11 up, there's 2 in rotation. So they're all around the pool, and each have their own sector, so it's still kind of hard to see when you're looking there. But as far as the capacity on the pool deck, I don't think that's a lot of people. We're gonna get to that point, we're gonna have to talk.
Yeah, Allison, you bring up a good point too, because I think we'll get some negative reaction from the public if we start turning away members, that have paid a membership and they can't get into the pool. So that's another, where we're a little reluctant to just turn away everybody.
I would much rather tell somebody that is not paid to get in yet, that we're not allowing people in, they can come back later, versus telling somebody who has already paid their fee
Mhm.
that they're not.
I would agree
allowed.
with that.
Are the day passes a significant revenue?
They're pretty good revenue, yeah, generally.
Is there a way to, like if the pool at the Y is closed for a reason, there's usually a notification. Is there a way to do a similar notification? Because I'm thinking of the SAC, because I used to manage the Conger program. And I'm sure you probably notify a group that large far enough in
Right, we call
advance.
our groups.
But I'm thinking also as a mom and lugging 2 kids or however many kids to the pool. I have a smartphone. I get that some people don't. But if there's some way to notify either on Facebook or the pool website, like.
We can definitely look at that.
Also, my thought is, let's say with the holiday coming up, if it's already at 200 at noon and it's probably going to be hot, personally, I'm thinking if you get to that number, is there any way that you can make that public so that you don't get to the 300 mark?
You can,
But it was on Twitter.
right?
It was on
We put it
Twitter.
on social media, but
Yeah.
here's the thing with putting out that notice. That
Sure.
can change within 10 minutes.
Right,
Mhm.
I get that.
So that's,
I do.
I don't want to, because then you're gonna get, well, you told me the pool, we couldn't get in the pool. And then my friend called me and said that we were in the pool. That's how quick it happens.
No,
So, you know, we had looked at ways to notify and, you know, but
Have you guys actually implemented this then so far yet? Have you done, and has it helped relieve some of that?
yes.
I mean, I personally, if there's a problem, safety is the first concern for anybody. I think that's at the pool. Nobody wants there to be something happen because it's overcrowded. From what you guys are recommending, I personally think your cadence is correct. I would start with the day camps, go to the day passes, and go to the member. There's going to be pushback no matter how you do it because of how it is, but
Right.
safety is everyone's first concern.
Right.
Offering that they can go over to the Y, I mean, it's an indoor pool versus an outdoor pool, so it'd be interesting to see how many people actually take you up on that, but it is at
Mhm.
least giving them an option. And it's at a reduced rate, right? Because it's more than that if you're not even a member to go, you can buy a day pass to swim at the Y,
Yes.
but it's more than what you would get to go to Mingo, so you're getting a reduced rate, excuse me.
And the only time we
May
do
not-
that is on the days that we have the.
Right, 90-degree weather.
Yes.
Is there, I'm going to apologize ahead of time for my type A personality. Is there any kind of formula that you could make public for planning purposes, like if it is above 85 degrees between the hours of noon and 2, we only admit members? Or is that too overarching and potentially taking away revenue from day passes
Yeah, I
on
think
days that
we're-
wouldn't be
Mhm.
packed?
Like I said, today it was warm
Mhm.
and it was virtually a slow day. I mean, it wasn't overcrowded by any means.
So there's no real rhyme or reason just yet? Okay.
There's no rhyme or reason why it happens. We've had cloudy days where it's been packed.
Super crowded.
You're like, why in the world are people here? But
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, but on Friday, I think you had to close at 2, and at 4 o'clock, you were fine again.
Yeah.
You're letting everyone in. So I mean, but that 2-hour gap is not consistent.
Sure.
So-
I was there Friday night and it was empty.
What will warrant a new pool? I know you said maybe 10-year plan, but I'm just thinking as a resident, and the area is only getting bigger,
Mhm.
what's going to warrant?
You don't even want to talk
first
about
of all,
I really don't.
for what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Okay,
conversation we're gonna have
you
to have
don't-
at some point, but,
It might need to be sooner rather than later.
it might be, yeah. And like I said, this is a kind of a new, I think Jeremy was saying, I don't know, you've been here longer. How many times have we run into this? Where we had to stop admission because we were at capacity?
Twice.
Yeah,
So we've never been able to sit.
and he's been here forever.
I can promise you, during that time too, we're probably not in compliance. Well, I mean, because we didn't have the same stipulations.
Sure.
I think given the limitations, the ideas of, like you said, the cadence
Yeah.
is right in line with the best you can do in a tough situation, and getting a discount at another pool, it might be suboptimal, but it's better than nothing.
And we start with our own, like I said, the first call we make is to our own campers. Do not go in the pool.
I did get this feedback actually already before this was brought up this meeting. I talked to Ted about it earlier. So, I mean, it is out there, obviously, like it's made its way to a couple of us already about it. But I think, again, I mean, if safety is obviously our number one goal, this is the correct cadence. I mean, I think members of the pool should be the last ones that are turned away because they have already paid for their membership. So, and if we're looking at I mean, we can't have any rhyme or reason for the days that this happens. I think this is a good plan to have in place so that you're prepared for when it happens again. And I mean, I honestly don't have any other recommendation of what we could possibly do since we have one outdoor pool. I think we covered. Does anyone else have any?
Seems to me like there should be a gate capacity as opposed to having the lifeguards have to monitor at the pool level.
Well, we have the person at the gate at the desk there, they got counters. So they're constantly clicking the counter when people come in, and then we have somebody now that's clicking when they leave. So they're interacting with each other and say, we've got,
Is there a number though that we stop? You know, this is the number we stop at.
it's usually around 300.
Okay, so are there any other questions about that? Do you need anything from us?
No, I just wanted your
about, or
input on that.
Okay.
The only other thing I would think of is if there's any kind of insurance.
Yeah, I mean,
Like if the insurance for the city, if they have a number for the pool, like capacity or something.
for our insurance is what stipulates our numbers for our lifeguards. So they're the ones that say 125. So that's what we follow.
Was that all the update of the parks?
Yes.
Okay, so then, facility rules and regulations?
Part of your packet was the shelter rules and regulations, which were in there, and they have not been updated for a while. So, and one of the items we wanted to kind of just get some input on tonight and have a discussion was rental of our shelters and indoor facilities, and particularly some of the rules that are in there overall. And one of the rules that is in there that we wanted to address was the rentals of the two nonprofits that we do. Typically, our policy now is they have free rentals at our and then looking at some other communities like Gahanna and Dublin, they have fees associated with their rentals. So I went through a few of them, and even in Delaware County, like Preservation Parks, if you rent an indoor facility, your fees are for nonprofits, you get a discount. But when you're looking at just the outdoor facilities, there's no, it's the same for everybody. If you're a nonprofit or a regular citizen, you have the same price as everybody. When you go to a place like Gahanna, they have, it's hard to read on that one, but they have a non-for-profit category where certain shelters like their Friendship Park gazebo, it's the same price for everybody. I'm assuming that's a gazebo that's not rented by a lot of people. So then you have the Woodside Green Park Shelter, which the nonprofits get a discounted rate of, like $20 on something like that. So there is a discount offered and something like that. And then I think Dublin has a similar policy where a nonprofit gets a discounted rate. And that one is about half the rate. So that's one item to look at that we wanted to kind of see if there's any input from the board and if they had any comments on that. And as you can see, just in this last quarter, it was about 25% of our rentals were for nonprofits. So we don't want to just turn them away, but I think it might be fair just to maybe give them a reduced rate or half price. And again, we had a lot this last quarter because school was ending and schools were using the shelters for some field days and stuff like that. So that's not a typical quarter, I wouldn't say. And this isn't something we need to make a decision on tonight, but I was hoping to maybe update our rules and regulations by the beginning of 2018.
So they're not being charged right now?
No, correct. And just looking at what other communities are doing, we're kind of
Who are the majority of the nonprofits? Schools, church groups, or who is it?
Yeah, schools, and then I could get a list of the nonprofits, but most of them are schools. And again, like I said, this last quarter we had a more than usual. Once the other 3 quarters aren't typically as many schools.
Are we revisiting this because other places do it differently or because we're looking to generate revenue?
Not necessarily generate revenue, but if the nonprofits, we have so many nonprofits renting the facilities, then that takes away from citizens being afforded the opportunity to rent them as much also. If a church group came in and wanted to rent it every weekend, that would take away from the opportunities from other citizens to rent that facility too.
So maybe a good middle ground if we wanted to start something could be 50%.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a fair something to look at. I could propose some potential changes in that and see what board's thoughts are on that. If you want me to go in that direction.
Is there, excuse me, is there a way you can look at days and times nonprofits would be using them as opposed to others, to see if there's a competition problem, or if it's.
We can, like if they're
If the
on
schools are
weekends.
using them in May or whatever, would there be people using them during those times normally, or is that like, or would people
Yeah.
use them more after school's out in the summertime? Or-
I think one thing I could look at is if they're using them on weekends more, because that's when the bulk of our rentals are for families, and everything is on weekends. So if we're getting a lot of nonprofits on weekends, then we could definitely have a positive impact on allowing it open for more families and citizens. I can look at that. We have that information.
I guess if the schools are using them on weekdays, like when nobody else would be renting them, then
And maybe we look at a different fee structure for weekdays versus weekends, where maybe the nonprofits are half price on weekends. Okay, I can get those.
Is there any reason to look at the nonprofits in different groups, like schools versus churches? Or do we have any obligation to serve the schools?
Yes and no. I mean, we'd like to serve the schools. I mean, if we can. I think Mr. Rohr brings up a good point. If especially during the weekdays when they would typically use it, we're not taking anything away from the citizens. So, or the opportunity for citizens to rent it. So maybe we keep that place where it's a free and you know, we still provide that free rental for the schools if they do it on a weekday as opposed to a weekend.
Maybe it could be like weekday during school hours, which is typically when the schools would be doing it.
Right. This year, if you remember, we went to a 2-block system. And again, to allow more citizens the opportunity to rent, because if one person rented it on the weekend, that was it. There's no other chances. So now if we can get 2 people in a shelter on the weekend, which I think is an improvement.
How have those rentals been going? Have they been filling up?
It's good, yeah. Like again, especially on the weekends, there's the splash pad, you know, both blocks are rented regularly. And again, it wasn't a revenue based, it was more of a, you know, more opportunity for citizens to rent it. Okay, I can look at some of those statistics on when they are renting it and maybe propose some options on how we could update that. Okay.
Okay. So then we'll move on to discussion of dog park seasonal closure.
All right, so this winter, we had to close the dog park. This was an unusual winter, obviously, with the warmer weather, but we had to close the dog park mainly the end of February to April because it was just really wet and dogs get in there. I mean, they could tear that park up, the turf up in a matter of hours if you get the right, especially on a weekend when it's a nice warm day and you get a lot of people out there. So, and I've seen other communities do this, and we kind of just closed this park for till April 9th, and that's when typically weather would get better. It starts drying out, and the turf is actually, the grass is growing. When the grass is not growing, it's just wet. It can get destroyed really quick. So once we can get the grass growing again and get a little bit of, you know, the turf to dry out, it can handle the loads we get. So one of the things I wanted to kind of just discuss with the board is whether we look at closing it so that we can give people definite timelines of when the park would be closed, whether if it was from the end of February to April, because we did get a lot of phone calls during that time, like, is it open? We utilized social media as much as we could because there were certain weekends that would be open, that would be nice, and we got a lot of phone calls that people were asking, is it open? And we worked with the dog park community that helped build that park, and they were fine because they understand that, you know, one bad weekend out there can close that park for 3 or 4 months as the turf recovers. One of the long-term goals we want to look at is maybe getting another field where we can rest fields and keep them closed while other fields are being used. But right now we don't have that. We have 2 fields. So just to kind of get your thoughts and if you had any input on that, you know, policy on this moving forward.
just have fixed dates.
Yeah, where it was closed so that people knew.
How do other communities handle that?
It's kind of a new, there's other communities that are doing it, and a lot of it depends on where you're at. The other thing is we don't have an actual trail in there. It's mostly turf. So one of the things we talked about is maybe trying to add a gravel trail in there that will help us to hopefully keep people off the turf especially as you walk in that first area where everyone goes across. It really gets tracked hard. So, but other communities are looking at doing this policy, but it's really hard to pin down certain dates. We kind of almost have to be broad in those thaw months of end of February through April that we really have a lot of use on that turf.
I know it doesn't really apply, but in Northern Ohio, they close in November and open back up in May.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of look at it as like November 1st to May 1st. I know their weather can typically be different than ours, but
Yeah.
something to think about.
Yeah, and that's something we'd be open to too. I mean, when it's frozen, it's not bad, but we're not always guaranteed frozen turf out here.
Right.
But
County roads all have those freezing and thawing like from February to May or whatever.
yeah, on the bridges and everything, yeah.
If you went with dates, would you be able to, I know it's suboptimal, but would you still have the option of closing it as needed outside of those dates if the weather's?
Yes, yeah, we would keep that weather dependent because there's some weekends we got a lot of phone calls, but it was worth closing because we saved that turf. I mean, it takes a lot longer to recover than it does to tear it up.
I just think our winter makes it really hard to pick a time. You could pick a time that it's great, that
If we can
however many
generally pick
weeks.
a time, like even if it was November to May, if we can at least if we can get that information out to the public and put it on a sign, then people know, and we could probably reduce some of the phone calls and the angry residents, why isn't it open, and why do you keep closing and opening it? That's something we want to avoid, is the closing and opening.
This was gonna ask, on the weekends that it was warmer, were you opening it then?
We did. We got to the point though where we just kept it closed, and we just put out this sign that said we were going to be closed till April 9th.
Yeah.
Weather dependent, because we couldn't get to that point where we're closing and opening it. And that's why I bring this up, is just because I think it'd probably be a good policy to be closed during the winter.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Okay, I'll present a policy then and at our next meeting and just see where we're at with that.
Okay, we'll move on to item 9, the discussion of Days Daily Triathlon.
So I probably should have kept going. Our Days Daily Triathlon, I wanted to discuss the board because we've had a reduction in people coming to this event. It's a long-standing event in Delaware. So we wanted to look and see if you had any input on what might attract more people to this event. It's a adult youth triathlon now, and our events committee has discussed this also. Any input I could pass along to them. Some of the items they kind of threw out there was maybe focusing on the youth event more and keeping the actual, because right now it goes outside of the Mingo Park. It's kind of based at Mingo Park, but it goes outside of Mingo Park and which creates a lot of additional time and staff that accommodates us. I think, I don't know if you know, but they only had 120 people last year. It's kind of gone down in numbers over the years. But if we completely be held in Mingo Park, it might be something to think about, and tied in more to youth fitness. The other item they brought up was kind of bringing into more some like a fitness gathering, kind of like a one-day version of the Arnold event in Delaware or something like that, where it was still tied towards fitness, but not necessarily a triathlon. I don't know if everyone's familiar with it. But
I'll tell you, as being a participant, in the last 3 years, attendance has gone down drastically. And I know some would think that it could be because of Mingo Man or Ironman, which are other
right.
Triathlete events that are held in Delaware. But I would say, although I'm not like trying to go to Kona or anything, there's no way for that time to matter in the athlete world. Might not make any sense, but it's not like chip time. And I think personally, as somebody that looks at events and outweighs the pros and the cons, I will always do the Days Daily because I'm loyal to it.
Mhm.
I know the Staley family very well. But for some of my friends that are triathletes coming from like Hilliard or New Albany, they won't even come because it's not chipped.
Okay.
Do you know do I need to
Yeah.
describe that more, or do you get what I mean?
Yeah. No, I understand what you mean.
And there also used to be, like, I want to say there was a 5K tied with it. And that brought in more people 3 or 4 years ago than the actual triathlete part.
Okay.
Families participated, church organizations participated. I remember that the church that's out on the point, Grace United Methodist, I'm not sure what it's called now, but anyway, they had like a whole team representing their church. I forget what trophy they were earned, but I just remember them being the largest group there and then the largest group to get an award. So some of that cheesy stuff people like, but I would say if you really want to bring people in, somehow connect it to the chip timing, or I'm probably going to say the letters wrong, but like the USAA Triathlon Association. And it doesn't take a lot of extra money to bring something like that in. It's just a matter of doing it.
Is that like a qualifier event or something like that?
Well, it could be, but I know what I'm saying probably doesn't make a lot of sense to those that aren't athletes, but
It just makes it a sanctioned event.
thank you. That's exactly what.
The one at the state park, people came in from all over the
Right,
country.
right.
Okay.
And for the youth part of it, again, I would tie into your triathlete coaches. I know right now in Delaware, there aren't very many, but if you Google triathlete coaches for youth in Central Ohio, you'll get a list of a half a dozen. And I would just reach out to them and say, hey, we are hosting this. If you don't already have something on your calendar for, I think it's in August this year, would you come?
Okay.
Because some of those kids that are in those groups, it's kind of like a traveling soccer team. They'll
Okay.
travel. They'll go to Cincinnati for an event.
Any other input? Okay. Then we will move on to staff comments.
Good.
Covered it?
Guess I'm done talking.
Okay, member comments?
I want to bring up something about the roll dry or squeegee out at Mingo Park is broken on the tennis
Okay.
courts. Tried to roll dry the course this morning and it just kind of didn't work.
I mean, go, okay.
Yeah, it's broken. Have we ever considered putting hitting walls on those, on Smith or Mingo, on the courts?
Not that I know of. Hitting walls?
Not while I've been here.
No? I just had a lot of people have been asking me, well, if I don't have anybody to hit with, it'd be nice to have a hitting wall, you know? And they're not really a distraction either on the court. I could maybe look something up and bring it to the next meeting if you're interested.
Yeah, that'd be great. Can you use a hitting wall for like handball and stuff like that too?
You know, the only thing I think I worry about with the hitting wall is some of the things that I have seen where with the kids kicking soccer balls into the nets. There's also been some baseball teams out at the New Lincoln courts hitting baseballs up against the fences and into the courts and into the nets. And
So a hitting wall is an actual net?
no, it's a hitting wall, but if somebody's kicking a soccer ball into it, it's gonna just take off. You know what I'm saying?
What are they made of? Concrete or?
Plywood.
The ones I've seen in plywood, that was
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, that's years ago. They're a thicker consistency now, but I'm not exactly sure what they're made out of.
Are they covered with like some kind of like rubber particle too? Okay, then I'm thinking of something else.
But you might be able to use it for a handball or something. You could hit a pickleball up against it.
I think of those old like racquetball courts, but those were like concrete. Where you could drive a bulldozer into those things.
Any other member comments?
I have float entry forms if anybody would like any for the 4th of July parade. We need floats of any type.
Okay, is that it? Then can I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
I can't see the time because there's a glare.
8:07.
All right, we are adjourned at 8:07. Thank you.